Oh, hi there. I've always wanted to say that. It's actually an intro line from one of my. Calling him a YouTuber is such a. It doesn't profile who he is. If I had to tell you he's a YouTuber, I think it would be doing disservice. But Bliss Foster is a fashion critic, and he has truly carried me in my journey of being a fashion designer, especially being independent as someone who did not go to fashion school, and always been curious about fashion from a young age. Living in Johannesburg for longer than 10 years, obviously exposed to pop culture. My friends, some of them are celebrities, some of them art designers themselves. And so, yeah, just being exposed to this industry, I found it priceless to find a source of information that does not depend on like trends and things that are cool. His content is not rate this or this sucks, this is cool. It really educates you into what is really happening behind the scenes. And so if you're a fan of fashion, you should definitely check him out, Bliss Foster, on YouTube. He's got an amazing series on Mason Martin Margiela, which is one of his favorite designers, and so is mine as well. And that's how I bumped into his content, doing research on Martin Margiela, and I went into a whole rabbit hole, and I've been following him for quite some years now, and to see his growth and has been really inspirational even to do this actually myself. And seeing his videos from 6 years back, I'm like, wow, it's truly invaluable to document your journey, and which is why I'm here as well, documenting my journey and being explicit about what I'm going through as when I'm going through it, as I am working on my first ever collection. Hi, I am Crowley, Paul Crowley, and as you know, I am here to ask questions. And today, the question I have is that crack you hear? That's the sound of transformation. And cracks are seen in concrete, they are seen in glass, they are seen in any sort of solid object that transforms, or can be the crack can be informed by anything or being pushed by anything. It can be pushed by waters, it can be pushed by air for that crack to happen. But today I want to talk about the crack in coffee and the process, mainly because it has been a process that has informed quite a lot of my processes. Actually, having founded a coffee brand in 2020 called Coffee Crowley, that process is in and of itself has taught me a lot. Understanding where coffee comes from and where it needs to go, from where it's founded to where it's consumed. It's a beautiful process that one, if ever curious about coffee, it's very beautiful. But there's a process in coffee from when it's farmed, and this is before it gets to even your barista at your favorite coffee shop or in your home, before you roast it, before you get the beans in the bag. There's a process called roasting, right, where from the farmer it gets dried and it's still a little green bean that is there, and then it goes through the process of roasting. And I've got a few notes for you today because I really want to take you through this process of roasting, or the science of it, thoroughly, so you can understand the context of where I'm going. And so in coffee roasting, it's all about applying heat to the green leaves, not the green leaves, the green beans. In that state, they're still raw and they taste very leafy, as you'd imagine any plant that's still green and alive would taste very leafy. And as the heat builds and the water and the gases inside the bean, they begin to expand, and that's around 385 degrees Fahrenheit. The beans literally crack open like popcorn. Like when you are making popcorn at a certain degree of that oil heating up, it pops, right? Or when the corn itself is at a certain degree, it pops. And that process in coffee roasting is or that specific point in coffee roasting is called the first crack. And it's loud, it's dramatic, and that is the sound of transformation. That's the sound a coffee roaster looks out for in that process, as you would when making popcorn. That first pop sort of alerts you that, okay, something is happening, the heat has been at least at the correct temperature for it to start popping, and you listen to it throughout the process. And as the sound of the pop starts simmering down, then you know that there's less seeds that are popping. But back to the coffee, the first crack marks the shift in the transformation. It goes from green, undeveloped bean into what we recognize as coffee. So in that process, that's when the flavor of coffee actually develops. It's in that first crack, and after that, the roaster can then decide on whether to continue heating it up even more, which goes into another process. But the roaster can also choose to stop at that point, and that's when you get sort of like a light roast, where it's even more acidic and more nuanced, and you can sort of play around with the flavors depending on the origin of the bean as well. Or they could choose to roast even further. That's when you get like dark roasts that are even much bolder and richer. And yeah, the process, obviously, or without the first crack, it means there is no coffee. And this is where I am drawing my inspiration from for my first collection at Imagine Crowley, called The First Crack. It's literally that process, and I explore it in different motifs of how the crack appears through certain clothing. And as I've explained in my previous video, there are stages or themes that I do explore, but the overarching message, it's the process of the first crack, and it feels like what I'm going through, a process I've actually went through multiple of times. It just feels in this moment even harder, to be honest. It's as if a different transformation is required, and so the heat is turned up a bit more. The pressures of life have felt even stronger. I'm feeling the heat of life, going from retrenchment, losing relationships. It's been a very sanctifying process, so to say, that I'm going through right now, and literally being driven to breaking point. And I'm learning to embrace this breaking point because I know what it calls for. I know that this heat, this pressure that I'm feeling right now, even just making the collection itself, going through a lot of insecurities and pushing through them. It feels like that process when I could, as a being, be like, okay, no, this is too much. I can feel my body expand, and I'm like, nah, I need this to stop right now. But I'm embracing that first crack, and I know I'm not there yet, but I know it's coming. I know that that first crack is for a good cause. And that first crack, you hear, it's the sound of transformation. So in whatever it is that you're going through in life right now, the sound that you hear, those sounds are visible. When you're going through something, those sounds are visible in whatever it is. I mean, in context to what I'm going through, it's obviously in things like losing a job, or it's been in seeing just the vulnerability of going through things and being open to change, right? But there are forces that feel like they're outside of my control, or that heat. And so I'm looking out for that first crack as my sign of transformation. And because it feels like if I do avoid the heat, I'm avoiding flavor. I'm avoiding the essence of becoming a coffee bean, right? And the beauty of I think what I'm going through is that once that happens, once that first crack happens, then I can choose to either go forward or I can choose to stop. Meaning I will be at a crossroads once again, and I will be faced with how I then choose my flavor. And I just wanted to share that with you. Share with you my process of my inspiration behind the collection, what I'm going through right now on a personal level as well. And I hope you can draw something from the process of making coffee as of I, and implement it into your own life and realize that the heat and the pressures of life are only calling for transformation, and one needs to embrace it, because no crack, no coffee. Right? And so next time you're enjoying a cup of coffee, realize that it's gone through a process itself. And if you see some signs in your life of transformation, I guess learn to lean into them, and realize you get to pick the flavor.